So you did it. You deleted the app. Or, hey, maybe you never even had it in the first place. Either way, I'm guessing you've heard it 1,000 times. You're missing out. But what if the exact opposite is true? Today, we're going to dive into the neuroscience that says you might just be way ahead of the game.
Oh, you've heard it all, right? You're disconnected, you're living under a rock. But think about it. While everyone else is chasing that next little hit of validation, refreshing and refreshing, you just stopped. They might call it strange, but what's actually firing up inside your brain when you step away from all that noise? Well, it's pretty fascinating.
See, this isn't a story about loss. It's not about what you're missing out on. It's about what your brain finally gets to reclaim, now that it's not being constantly hijacked.
To really get this, we've got to look at what your brain does when it's just left alone. You know, when it's not being bombarded with notifications and pictures and opinions. Meet your default mode network, or the DMN. Think of it as your brain's internal creative studio. According to Nature Review's Neuroscience, this is the system that kicks in when you're daydreaming, or reflecting, or planning your future. It's responsible for all the stuff we say we want more of. Creativity, self-awareness, you name it. It's your brain being, not just consuming.
But what happens when we throw a wrench in the works? What happens when that constant, endless scroll enters the picture? You don't have to take my word for it. Listen to Tristan Harris. This guy was a design ethicist at Google, and he put it so clearly. These platforms were literally built to hijack you. The goal wasn't just to connect you, it was to capture your most finite resource, your attention.
And he wasn't being dramatic. The science is all there. Studies show that social media triggers the exact same reward pathways in the brain as addictive drugs. It lights up your limbic system, that's kind of the ancient, emotional, impulsive part of your brain, and it just goes wild with every single scroll.
So when you log off, you're not really disconnecting. You're just hanging up on that noise machine. You're finally letting your default mode network stretch, wake up, and actually get back to doing its real job. And if you want some cold, hard data, just look at this. A major study in JAMA from Harvard found that after just 1 week off social media, reported depression symptoms dropped by almost a quarter. Anxiety went down 16% and insomnia fell by 15%. These aren't small changes, and they happen fast. Okay, so the brain science is one thing. It's pretty incredible, but it's only half the story. The reasons people leave, the psychology behind it, that's just as important. And it usually comes down to two main paths.
So this is a good moment for a little self-reflection. Ask yourself, when you stay offline, is it a conscious choice for privacy, or is it more of an instinct to avoid being seen, maybe because of what that visibility could cost you?
So on one side, you have the conscious opt-out. This is the person who sees the whole system, the algorithms, the game, and just says, you know what, I'm not playing. You're good with your own company, you don't need the likes. Then there's the protective withdrawal. This is a little different. It's more of a learned behavior, often from past experiences that taught you that being too visible, too exposed, well, it just isn't safe. And let me be super clear, both of these paths are completely valid. But where does a preference for one path or the other even come from? Well, turns out this story didn't start with your first iPhone. Nope. It started a long, long time ago. It really goes all the way back to a psychologist named John Bowlby and his work on attachment theory. He figured out that our very first relationships, usually with our parents, create a kind of blueprint for how we connect with others for the rest of our lives. And believe it or not, that blueprint is running in the background every single time you think about opening an app. And this isn't just a theory. A huge analysis in Science Direct basically confirmed it. If you grew up with a secure attachment, feeling safe and loved, you probably don't feel the need to chase validation online. If your attachment was more anxious, maybe affection was inconsistent, you might get sucked into that endless cycle of refreshing for likes and comments. And if it was avoidant, where you learned early that being independent was just safer, well, you're much less likely to get hooked on social media at all.
So what happens when you put all this together? You've got the neuroscience, you've got the deep psychology, you get something really powerful. You get the freedom to live an unperformed life.
Think about it like this. There are two kinds of self-awareness. The performer is always constantly asking, how will this look to other people? Everything is filtered through an audience. But when you step away from that, you make space for the authentic self, who gets to ask a much more important question. How does this feel to me? You stop managing an image, and you free up all that mental energy to actually get to know yourself. And here is the beautiful paradox of it all. An experience, watching a sunset, having a great conversation, it becomes 1,000 times more real the moment you let go of the need to prove it happened. You just get to be there,
You get to live it.
Because ultimately, the strongest, most solid version of you isn't the one that's built for an audience. It's the one that exists and feels whole even when no one is watching.
So, how about you? What's your story? Were you a conscious quitter, or did you just never get on the train to begin with? Let us know in the comments. Because it turns out you weren't missing out on the world. You were busy connecting with yourself.